I let my brother move in with me rent-free at his worst, and on my birthday he and my wife both sit me down and announce that she is pregnant by my brother and that brother expects me to vacate the house so that they can start playing happy family together. But when I inform him that the entire property belongs to me and that wife is essentially a stay-at-home wife, no assets of her own, and now he's going crazy because he has been conned. I, 34, male, let my sister Mark, 28, male, move in with me a couple of months ago since he was in a really bad condition financially. Mark and I are not particularly close, but he had lost his job due to his company closing down. And within 2 weeks of that, he fell seriously sick due to the West Nile virus. And after talking to my parents, I decided to have him move in with me for a couple weeks so we could keep an eye on him, monitor his progress, and make sure that he was able to save up on rent, since evidently he wouldn't be able to go back to work for a few weeks. He was probably at his worst at this time, and I was the one who had helped him out since our parents don't live around here and he doesn't exactly have a lot of friends who are in a position to help. I didn't even look at it as a favor. I thought that this was just the right thing to do, especially since I could afford it. But he repaid me by having an affair with my wife. And on top of that, he actually had the audacity to tell me that I was the one who needed to leave the house so they could play happy family together because my wife was pregnant. This happened a couple of days ago. Mark asked both me and my wife to sit in the living room so he could speak to us about something very important. I thought that he was finally moving out because he had recovered quite well in the past couple of weeks, and I thought he was going to tell us that he was finally rejoining work and was going to be out of our hair. Instead, he told me that he and my wife had been having an affair for the past couple of weeks and right now my wife is pregnant. When I looked at my wife, I was shocked. So clearly, this was not something she had discussed with him before telling me about it, which explains a lot of things. Anyway, after he told me he was the father of my wife's baby, he told me that he could understand that this was probably a shock for me and he was really sorry that this even happened. But at the end of the day, what's done was done. And now he would really appreciate it if I vacated the house because he would find it really weird to be around me the whole day in his current condition. I was furious, but I didn't let it show. I just quietly told him that I was not going to vacate the house because this is my property. And if anybody had to leave, it would be him and my wife. And they could play happy family wherever they wanted to because I was going to be filing for a divorce and I didn't even want to see them anymore. I spoke to him as calmly as possible, kept my anger under control, and tried to deal with the situation in a dignified manner because they had already caught me off guard, so I was not going to let them have the satisfaction of watching me freak out at them anyway. After I told him that this was my property and I would not be leaving, he told me that I would have too. And apparently, he thought that I was kidding. But then my wife told him that I was indeed not joking and told him that she was a stay-at-home wife, always had been, and she had apparently lied to him about everything that she had told him in the beginning. For context, my wife and I have been together for the past 8 years. We've been married for the past 5 years. And a couple of months after our marriage, I decided to take the leap and started my own business. With the grace of God, I've been doing very well for myself. And so my wife and I decided that she could stay back home and she could work on her writing career. For the past 4 years, she's been staying at home working on her big novel and taking care of the household chores. We don't have any kids, so she doesn't have a lot to do. But all the property and everything, it belongs to me because, technically, I purchased it, and both of us thought that it was only fair for me to own everything. I bet she's regretting it now, though, because after she told Mark that she didn't actually own anything and she had been lying about everything, he started freaking out at her and claimed that he had been conned. He started yelling at my wife, calling her a scammer and a liar. And entertaining as it was to watch him lose his mind at her, I wasn't interested in any of that at that point in time. I just wanted both of them out of my house. So I had to intervene, get them to stop yelling at each other, and tell them to get the heck out of my house that very instant. I was not even willing to give them any time. I just wanted them out of my sight. My wife is relatively smart. She knew that there was no way she was going to get out of this one, since there is nothing more important to me than my self-respect and dignity, and I was never going to take back a cheater. So she quietly went into the bedroom and started packing, but Mark decided to start begging on his knees, telling me that he was going to do anything it took to fix whatever had happened, but he just needed a place to stay. And since we were family, I couldn't just kick out my pregnant wife. Him bringing up the fact that we were family, that's what really ticked me off. So I grabbed him by the arm, got him to stand up and walked him to the door and then pushed him out. Physically, I was very rough with him, but I didn't care. I was furious at the fact that he had had the audacity to say that we were family, and I couldn't kick him out. It really got to me. Once he was outside, he started begging me not to do this, but I slammed the door shut, and then I went to the guest room, started stuffing all her things in his bags. And in a couple of minutes, I threw those bags outside with him and told him to get lost or else I would call the cops on him. He kept crying, but I just shut the door and went back inside. And a few minutes later my wife walked out with her bags, telling me that she was really sorry about this. But I pretended not to hear her. Mark kept crying and begging on the porch for about an hour after she left, but I just put my headphones on and blocked him out. After a certain point of time, I couldn't hear him crying on the porch any longer, and I realized that he was finally gone. That very night, I spoke to my lawyer, told her everything that happened, and said that I wanted to file for divorce. I thought that I would tell my friends and family later, but the very next day, I received a call from my parents telling me that what I had done was really unreasonable and that my behavior was heartless. I found that very strange because, so far, my parents have always treated me and Mark equally. It's not like he's the golden child or whatever, but the fact that they were actually defending him didn't sit right with me. They told me that it was heartless of me to kick him out when he was in his lowest, especially when I knew for a fact that he was in between jobs right now and was recovering from a serious illness, so it would take him time to get back on his feet. On top of that, he didn't have anybody here who could take care of him as well as I could. All his friends were in the same boat financially and had their own work and family to worry about rather than taking care of him. So as his brother, the least I could do was forgive him for his stupidity and be there for him. Instead, I kicked him out and they thought that I was being really insensitive, especially considering the fact that he impregnated my wife. And to top it all off, it was my wife who had scammed him. And they said it as if it was my fault somehow. Apparently, my wife had been telling him that she owned everything and that she handled the financial situation at home because she was a really successful ghostwriter for novels and even film scripts. But since she didn't want the fame that came along with this, she kept herself anonymous. And my idiot brother actually believed all that. He started to think that maybe she was a hotshot, which is why he ended up seducing her. And since she was on a power trip, my wife never said anything about the truth either. Then, when my wife, Mark, figured that it was finally time to let me know that he had been having an affair with my wife so the two of them could kick me out. Unfortunately, that plan backfired, especially since he hadn't even discussed anything with my wife before confronting me with the truth. And essentially, he screwed everything up for himself and my wife. Anyway, I really don't understand how any of this is my fault. He brought this onto himself, and my parents' decision to pretend like he was the victim in the situation and that he himself had created was absolutely mind-boggling. So I fought for myself. I defended my decision to throw him out, because he was the one who decided to have an affair with my wife, and regardless of whether she played a part in it or not, it was clear that he played an equal part. Both of them had teamed up and betrayed me together, so it didn't make sense for me to kick my wife out and then let him stay as if nothing had happened. And it didn't make a difference to me whether he was the father or not, whether he could work right now or not, because I had taken all of that into consideration before and let him stay with me for months. But he had thanked me by having an affair with my wife while staying under my roof. Besides, I don't care what he did, I just wanted him out of my house. After all, he was ready to kick me out when he thought that our house belonged to my wife, so why would I worry about him? But my parents just kept talking about that one point over and over again, especially highlighting how rough I had been with him until I just got tired of them and I hung up. It was clear that they were not going to move on from that, and since we haven't spoken to each other. But now I'm beginning to think that maybe I didn't do the right thing. AITA for kicking my brother out of the house because the baby belongs to my wife and he might be the father. Update 1. Hey, thank you so much everyone for all the support and the comments. I really needed that since I had seriously started to doubt myself, but I really don't need to. I blocked my parents yesterday. I really don't need that sort of negative energy in my life, especially right now since I'm already dealing with a lot of stuff. I can't stop going to work to recover from what's been going on in my personal life. I'm the boss. I'm just gonna have to put on a strong front and deal with it. So at work, it's been business as usual. But as soon as I come back home, I just crash because emotionally I'm just devastated. I didn't let any of the cracks show for the past couple of days, but now it's really starting to hurt. My lawyer and I filed for divorce a couple of days ago, and soon enough I think my wife will be served. I know she's not going to contest the divorce. She knows me well enough to know that if she does, I'm going to make sure that she pays for it. But at the end of the day, it still hurts. Winning the divorce is not going to make the situation better for me automatically. I just can't imagine why, after 8 years of being together, she had to have that affair with my brother. And she was carrying his baby, and while having an affair with my brother in my house. I really believe that we were in love. I genuinely thought that we were going to be together forever and grow old together, but now I'm doubting everything that we have had in the past couple of years. Maybe this is not even the only person that she cheated on me with. Maybe this is just the first time that she got caught. And even the thought of that makes my heart hurt, but there's not much that I can do about it apart from just accept it and try to move on. She is the only person who hasn't tried to contact me after she got kicked out. My parents have, and so has Mark, but that's different because I know that they only want me to take him back in so that he can continue staying here for free. It's really shocking that, even after he has done so much damage, he still has the audacity to expect me to help him out. And it's actually even more insane that my parents are siding with him right now. In my post, I spoke about how my parents had never had a favorite child. They had always treated me and Mark equally, but right now, I honestly don't know what to think about this. I don't have any expectations from Mark himself. I had already said that we were never very close, and the only reason I had helped him out was because I knew that, financially, it was not going to be a big deal for me. And we already had a spare room at home, so why not? And that's what my parents had wanted as well. So I didn't see a problem with helping him out since that's what family does. But I never really expected anything great in return from Mark, at least. However, with my parents, it's a different story. Given how they've always been reasonable and fair, I expected them to be upset with Mark, and I'm not saying they aren't. From the conversation that we had earlier, it was clear that they were not happy about how Mark had chosen to go about the situation, but they kept insisting that the damage had already been done and now the only thing that we could do was just accept whatever had happened and try to move on with it. But accept how? How am I supposed to accept the fact that my brother, who I supported at my worst, decided to have an affair with my wife who has been with me for almost a decade and on top of that actually expected me to leave my own house? It's bizarre to even say out loud, and I'm somehow supposed to accept it and help him out even now? I honestly don't know what's gotten into my parents, but they have seriously disappointed me with their behavior. I think I've lost all respect that I had for them, and I don't think that I can ever regain it because the situation right now, it's really bad. Emotionally, I'm just done, and mentally I'm only focused on my work, but everything in my personal life has pretty much fallen apart. I haven't even spoken to my friends about it, but I know at some point I'm gonna have to let people know that this is happening. After all, my wife and I have a lot of common friends together, and I would rather that they found out about the situation from me than her because I don't know what she would tell them. At this point, I don't know what to expect from anyone anymore. Anyway, now I'm only trying to focus on a couple of things for a while. First, of course, my work shouldn't suffer because of this, and I'm going to make sure of it. Secondly, I also have to worry about the divorce proceedings because even though I'm 90% sure that she's not going to contest terms since I've decided to be pretty fair and reasonable, there is still a small chance and uncertainty about what she might do because right now, it's anybody's guess. So I'm keeping all the documentation prepared and stuff just in case. But other than that, I'm trying to keep my head as blank as possible because I really don't want to overexert myself and end up spiraling. That's the last thing that I need right now. But venting about my feelings here has been really helpful, and I really appreciate the fact that so many of you have reached out to me, commented on my post and been so supportive. It means the world to me. It really does. Update 2. Hey. Just so as I had expected after he was served, my wife decided to hit me up and tell me that she was not going to be contesting the divorce. And she found the terms of the divorce to be very fair. She sent me a text saying all this, and then in the next one, she told me that in the past couple of days she had been thinking of ways to apologize to me, but she just couldn't come up with anything because everything that she thought she could say just seemed really flimsy and insincere. And so she just decided to get it out of the way by telling me that she was really sorry by text. She told me that she had lied to Mark just to impress him because she had been feeling very weird lately about the fact that she didn't own and have to rely on her husband for her finances. We don't even have a kid with me, so she couldn't even have the dignity of being a stay-at-home mom. She just felt useless, and since her novel was not coming along that well either, she felt like she had wasted 4 years of her life on something that was going to take her nowhere, and she had been feeling particularly depressed about it, but she couldn't even acknowledge it to herself, let alone talk to me about it. So she was feeling really bad about herself, and then when Mark came along, before she could even think about the depravity of what she was doing, she was lying to him about everything, trying to impress him, and soon enough they were sleeping together. She thought that it was just going to be a fling and she felt really guilty about it, but she just couldn't control herself. She needed a way to distract herself from everything that was going on, and that was her way. But then my wife got pregnant and we had that horrible conversation 2 weeks ago, after which everything pretty much went to absolute crap. And she told me that she really regrets everything that she did. She screwed everything up for us, but she promised me that this was the first and last time that she had ever cheated on me. This had never happened before, and she really needed me to trust her on that. And maybe sometime in the future, if I could, then she wanted me to forgive her for everything that she had done wrong. That was the message, and after I was done reading, I ended up crying because it was just another reminder of everything that I had lost. I thought that I had this woman who I loved and who loved me, but within the span of one day, I lost all of that. And trust me, it's not easy to deal with it. I know that every person who has ever gone through a divorce or been cheated on, they'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I can say a bunch of horrible stuff about her, make myself hate her for now, but at the end of the day, it still hurts. I hated myself for crying over that text. But at least after I was done crying, I got the strength to block her without replying. Because to be honest, even though I was very upset about everything, she did not deserve a reply, and I was not going to forgive her, especially not right now when everything is just so fresh. After a while, I actually started feeling a bit annoyed with everything that she had said because all she had to do was just talk to me. I, for one, had never ever made her feel bad that she was choosing to stay at home and work on her novel. I'm not a very creative person myself. I've never been one for writing and stuff apart from right now, since I really have to get these things off my chest. But I respected her creative side and I didn't see anything wrong with her staying at home. I could understand that maybe her fragile female ego couldn't handle it. Maybe other people had made comments and things, and maybe she just became bitter. But the least she could have done after 8 years of being with me was at least let me know what she was going through, and then maybe we could have worked it out together. But she chose not to. She chose to let herself suffocate without letting me know anything, and then she chose to distract herself by entertaining Mark and his advances. The more that I think about it, the more disgusting and pathetic I find it. The fact that she lied to him about so many things just to make herself seem bigger and better. I loved her the way she was, but that was not enough for her. She had to go out of her way to make herself seem more impressive with a bunch of lies and then cheat on me with my brother. This is just never going to make any sense to me. At least with Mark, I could understand his motive. He wanted to live my life and get ready without putting in any work, and he thought that he could do that by getting my wife pregnant and moving in with my wife, the supposedly rich woman. But with her, I just don't know why she did it and ended up ruining everything that she had. And I think that that's punishment enough. Who she is bad enough. I don't have to punish her more, so I can just choose to ignore her existence now. In a few months, I'll be done with divorce and then I'll just never have to see her or think of her again. Update 3. Hey, so it's been a couple of days since my last update and I was having a quiet few days, but then today, in the morning, my parents showed up at my house. I found it strange because in the past few years after they moved back to my dad's hometown to run the family business with my uncle, they would hardly ever visit, and it was mostly Mark and I who would have to go see them. So the fact that they had taken a flight and came to visit me was a big deal in itself, but I knew that they were only here to talk about Mark. And that's why when I opened the door, I told them that if they were here to talk about him then I really didn't want to entertain them. After all, there's only one Sunday every week and I really didn't want to waste mine by going over the same things again. I had said whatever I had to and so had they, and right now we had nothing more to discuss with regard to that situation. And I also made it very clear to them that I would only let them in if they apologized to me for everything first, because I believed that the way they had behaved with me, the way they had tried to constantly guilt trip me into believing that I had treated Mark badly when it was he who had screwed up everything, it was not right, so they could either apologize to me right now or they could leave. I made my boundaries very clear, but my parents told me that they had come specifically to talk to me about Mark and I couldn't just weasel my way out of it by pretending that I was too busy. They told me that we had to discuss this because as family we couldn't treat each other like this. Once again they were bringing up the whole family thing, and just like with Mark, I lost my temper with them as well because this is not how families treat each other, at least as far as I'm concerned. Even though I'm not very close to Mark, he was family so I helped him out. But instead of respecting that and being grateful to me, he literally had an affair with my wife. Is that seriously how a family is supposed to treat one another? And if he can do that to me, why am I supposed to be kind to him even after that? He destroyed my marital life and I know that my wife had an equal part in it, but so did he, and I don't have to forgive him just because he's family. He didn't think about me before doing what he did, so why exactly am I supposed to do that? At least I had valid reasons and explanations. He didn't. I totally put my parents on blast, and they kept trying to fumble and come up with arguments, but I didn't even let them speak. I just steamrolled all over their arguments. And after I was done, my mom had literally been reduced to tears, and she just kept repeating that I couldn't talk to them like that. But they were on my turf. I could speak to them however I wanted to, especially because they had decided to get on my nerves this morning, even though they already knew that there was no need to discuss this since my personal life was already pretty bad. I didn't need them adding fuel to the fire. I had already warned them when they showed up that I was not interested in talking about this, but they had still decided to test me. So they really had no right to pretend that they were very hurt by whatever had happened. They should have been expecting exactly this sort of outburst. Anyway, after I was done yelling at them, my mom was sobbing so hard that my dad just told me that he never wanted to speak to me again because clearly I had lost it. And then he walked away. But I don't care. They can believe that I'm crazy. I know that I'm not, and that's enough for me. If anything, they are the ones acting crazy right now, and that is all that I need to know. Update 4. Hi. So it's been a month since my last update, and I haven't been in touch with anybody from my family, not Makar and definitely not my parents. I'm guessing that now they are funding him, so good for him, I guess. As for my soon-to-be ex-wife, I heard from a couple of people that she is living with her parents now and she has a baby boy, and after this has been finalized, she's going to be moving out of state. By now, pretty much all our friends know exactly what happened, and they have started cutting her out of their lives, most of them at least. Some of them don't want to get involved and remain neutral, but I don't really care. All I know is that my life is slowly but steadily getting back on track, and I'll do anything to protect my peace now. I'm not exactly happy, but at least I'm content, which is an improvement from last month. And slowly, I know that I am going to be happy again. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.